Today, Tim and Ray are going to be sharing their investment philosophies as well as their personal story leading to the formation of Trust Your Talent. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Property Hustler Show. My name is Andrew, and today Ping and I are joined by two very special guests, Tim and Ray, who are founders of Trust Your Talent. They are also two international real estate investors and who are going to be sharing with us a very personal journey. I know you guys have bounced back, having gone through some losses in real estate, having overcome some significant health issues. I mean, I think your story is very impressive. So, Tim, Ray, really great to have you guys on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for a lot of people that actually didn't know where we came from, Trust Your Talent is not the first time that we've leveraged to really help us to be able to communicate our journey and our knowledge and experiences and kind of pass it forward and pay it forward. We were trainers and mentors with another organization prior that is no longer around. And I mean, you can edit it however you want. I mean, it was Rich Dad in Canada.
I see. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, though, I mean, we always say that we learn a lot through that journey, like a lot of what we've done so far. When Rich Dad was going away, I'm just going to be a little PC about it.
That's okay. Yeah.
When they were going away, we kind of just looked at each other and go, this was what, 2019 for us. And we just kind of looked at each other and went, I mean, we don't have to do anything because that's the main reason why we built the portfolio that we built. And right now, I mean, on Sunday, basically, we stopped here for 3 days. We're going to South America for another month. And we're on the road traveling basically 6 months out of the year. However, people are like, oh my God, you're so lucky. And we go, well, yes. And we worked for the last 10 years to get here.
Yep.
We had a goal in mind, and that's the lifestyle that we want. And we know a lot of people aspire to that. And not so much the traveling part, but the time, the location, the money freedom to do anything they want. Back in 2019, when the other vehicles stopped, we just decided that, you know what, this is a true passion for us because through Rich Dad, I became the most awarded mentor in Rich Dad history of 26 years international. And so I just feel like maybe I have something to offer and I want to keep going.
Maybe.
Just maybe. I love seeing the light bulb moments too. And so does he.
Yeah. I mean, when we decided and we looked at each other about now what do we do? What about the people who looked up to us and wanted that much more, that were midway through their real estate investing journey? They reached out to us, what next? And so that's why we built TYT for people like them and people that didn't even know how to start. Because I know for the both of us, I mean, for a lot of people that are starting their real estate journey, and there's a lot of people out there who followed the traditional path of, myself included, you're Asian, your mom probably wanted you to get a nice degree, maybe a master's, wear a suit, have a laptop bag, ideally the suit's fancy.
Yep.
Yeah, he's hugely disappointing, right?
Right. and look at us now. I mean, I'm wearing a t-shirt and like have shoes from Costco, and we want to help those people to help redefine them and get them to their journey, because there's a lot of people who follow that traditional path, and again, myself included, and it was disappointing. Stuff didn't make either of us happy. It's the freedom and the time to do whatever, whenever, wherever, with whoever.
I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
It's one thing to teach people or to be a great mentor teaching real estate. It's another thing to build a trusted talent organization, right? Because now it requires an organization skill, your management side, right? Attracting the right coach, right? Marketing, right, to the students and all that. How did you make that transition?
You ask really, really great questions, and they're very in depth because we've really thought about it in terms of what the business model was going to look like. So when we first decided that, okay, we're going to form a new organization. Actually, I'm curious, how did you come up with Property Hustlers?
Because we're hustling in real estate, so we're property hustlers.
You know what? There's two takes on it, but yeah, no, honestly, it's like it was something that was constantly being said in our office, right? It's like, you know, it's like you have to respect the hustle. It's like we're always hustling to get things done, and it's like when we started connecting with people and even the people that we help, the one thing in common is that everyone who was actually able to make it and be successful knew what it meant to hustle. And some people, the thing is that there was the other walk of life where people just kind of like watch the videos, consume education as a form of entertainment, but they don't have that hustle in them. So if you're in real estate and any form of real estate, whether you're doing renovations, you're doing pest control, you can be doing landscaping, it's like you have that understanding of what it means to hustle in the realm of with properties, and then you can break into the market. So that's how that name came about.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I mean, you know, that's the thing, because Trust Your Talent on the surface, the name is very straightforward, like Property Hustlers. The
Yeah.
name itself is very straightforward. However, it always comes down to why you actually chose it and let it stick, because it's a part of you and it's your brand. And so for us, Treasure Talent, I think it has a lot to do with all of our personal journeys. And kind of like piggybacking on what Ray was saying is the fact that we were making decent coins from our regular traditional JOBs. However, we were so unhappy, so unhappy. My personal history is that I've had 3 minor heart attacks in my life, and I manage 6 now different autoimmune disorders on a daily basis. And so to me, there was always that element of, I don't know how much time I got left. I want my life to mean something. Like when I leave this planet, I want to have done some good. So going back to Treasure Talent, when we formed it, I really just want an organization that represents or symbolizes hope and believe in yourself. Because I think a lot of the times when we were growing up, it's all these limiting beliefs that have been put into us over time, and it stops us from reaching our full potential. So that's really where the seed was planted from a long time ago. And then I picked Treasure Talent just because I think believing in yourself is very generic and a little too common. You know, as a Taiwanese person, I always aspire to become one of those singers who karaoke a lot. And so the word talent really, stuck out to me. And, believing in oneself. So trust in your own self. So that's really what Treasure Talent stands for, just on the surface in terms of meaning of it. However, everybody on the team, we always say from day one, we were very clear about our mission statement when it comes to offering financial education. We are not teaching anybody real estate, because we're not teaching people to become licensed realtors or property managers or mortgage brokers or appraisers or inspectors or anything like that. So we're not in real estate. We are in financial education, and we leverage a vehicle that is real estate investing, no different than option trading, no different than buying stocks and cryptos and any other sort of asset classes. We just leverage real estate as the asset class, as the way to show people how you can create multiple sources of income, both in the short term and the long term. And so as a result, you can also create longer term and generational wealth if you want to. And so that's really where it started, because I was making 6 figures by 25. In my circle, nobody else was doing that. However, I was always kind of hungry for more. And yet my personal health situation was always kind of holding me back a little bit. And I just got really sick and tired of the feeling of, being held back. I was working 80 hours a week on average before I had my 3rd heart attack.
Was that when you had a previous job, or that was when you were in real estate?
That was when I had my previous job.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Was that with Rich Dad?
No, that was
before.
That was way before. I went to school for marketing. So
All right.
yeah. So I worked for an advertising agency, and then after that, I worked for a company called Yellow Pages Group.
Remember those?
Yes. Wow.
Going back to your actual question, that's what I said. I'm building context around it because of all these things. So when we decided that, wow, working 80 hours a week and making 6 figures at a young age was not going to get us anywhere, because we started joining the workforces officially in 2006 for me, 2005 for you. With that kind of income back in those times, you kind of think that, well, life's got to be pretty good. Fancy title, fancy car, nice condo in Vancouver at the time. Again, life was just not happy. And then so we moved to Alberta because climbing the corporate ladder, we thought, okay, well, this is going to be really, really slow in the Vancouver market for a couple of 20-year-olds. And so we decided to move and do that. So long story short, I did climb the corporate ladder relatively quickly after I moved. And what that also means is that you're surrounded by people that are much older than you. They have a lot more life experiences than you. And so one day I realized, oh my God, every time I open up a bank statement from my savings account, from my RSP, from my TFSA, from my company stock options, everything was going the other direction. That's completely the opposite what we were taught growing up. Just save, put money away, put it in all these pots, and you're going to retire well, be a very bona fide middle class wealthy person. That definition.
You sort of challenged that concept.
The status quo.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense. And then again, I know you guys are younger than we are. So in 2008, global financial crisis, literally, even for us, we have very little stake at the time. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to find out that, oh my God, this is not sustainable. Not able to work 80 hours a week for the rest of my life and have my investment go the other way.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm never going to retire.
I think it's that perspective that also gives you a degree of also, like, in all honesty, credibility. You've seen this before. You've seen some of the things that are happening. It's not like this is your first rodeo or you haven't been through this kind of turbulence before. And in terms of how people are working, even as we see it today, I know people who, because of the remote work, they're now doing 2 jobs. They're doing an 8-hour job in 6 hours, and they're doing 2 6-hour jobs, 12-hour shifts, so they can get 2 incomes. Why? Because they need it in order to make these mortgage payments, right? So people are doing some crazy things. And I like what you said, by the way, just to bring it back to that, in terms of like redefining that version of success. I think also Gary Vee said that, right? I think he was like, we need to redefine what success looks like, and especially for the Asian idea of like success too. It's like it really feels like at least for us, we talked about it sometimes, and it's a different kind of shackle that you end up wearing, right?
You end up assuming way too much of an obligation that you don't want to do, right? Because sometimes we talk about like being happy, like whether money actually buys the happiness, right? I think in the very beginning it does, because it gives you a lot of options. But the moment that you overdo it, now you have the social responsibility, you have all the other stuff that you really shouldn't be or start consuming a lot of your mental energy. That's when things are like the balancing act needs to come in.
One of the consistent things I think people need to be paying attention to, and I would love to hear your opinion on it, is understanding where those pivot points are. Do you remember when people used to say that, I think it was in Ontario, above $65,000 a year, they were saying doesn't bring happiness? I know the inflation has caused a lot of changes in that. The number's probably a little higher where happiness is kind of like met at a certain threshold, whatever you think that might be. But people, I feel like, need to understand how to adjust, pivot, and move into something that they want. And I think even the trust your talent thing is really good in terms of like the name that sends the message, because people really know, I think, what they need to do. It's just they don't trust in themselves to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think,
I agree.
if people start like putting all this together, they'll have an idea. So what's your take on that in terms of like the way things are? Because, you obviously have a lot of experience with real estate, with trust your talent, and with people, and seeing where their pain points are. What are some of the general things you're seeing in the market that needs advice to be given that really helps them? And so on a broad spectrum, I know it kind of depends.
Yes.
But let's say for the average.
If I can jump on that quickly, I think one of the biggest things that we need to take out of the real estate investing conversation is the competition to have lots of doors. Oh, look at me. I have 8 doors. Oh, look at me. I have 25 doors. And bring it back to, are your investments feeding you? Are your investments putting food on the table? Are your investments making life better? Like, how does that actually look like in real life? Can you take your family on a vacation with your investments? Can you pay for your daughter's wedding with your investments? Because really, having all these doors is like looking at numbers at a bank. Not going to bring you any happiness.
It might bring you more stress, really.
Well, property management,
100%.
100%.
Yeah. So, and this is why, we always share our formula very openly. And we know that over the last few years, a lot of people have really picked up on it. Our formula is very, very straightforward. We always start with the why, your purpose in life, kind of like what you were saying. 65,000. I think the last time I saw some sort of report that touched on that topic was $75,000 now USD. So, for us Canadians, probably $100,000 a year. After you've reached that threshold, you're not any happier than you were making any less than that. However, the idea is, what do you got to do to make yourself feel happy, joyful, fulfilled, be able to sustain that life and sustain that feeling and sustain that purpose? And going back to the original question is, how do we attract the right people to be a part of the Trust Your Talent team? We basically call it a big Trust Your Talent family and community. At the same time, yes, if we're going to break it down, obviously we do have the training team and the fulfillment team. That is the core team that does the marketing, that does the coaching, that does the training and the mentoring. And really, in short, as much as I fought this in corporate, it's really funny because now that we're not in corporate, we are fostering from within, because every single trainer and every single coach, they were our mentees once upon a time. And so we know their work ethic, their value system, their results, the strategies that they know, the markets that they have applied, the size of their portfolio, and we know that they're active investors. In fact, we tell people that we are not teaching you just so that we can come to you and be like, hey, we got a deal for you. We're very clear about the fact that this is education only. You will never have a mentor or a trainer that will train you and come to you and be like, hey, I got a deal. I know you have money. Do you want to back it? It's never about that. We want to be able to teach people how to fish. And largely it's because that's how we were trained. And so the first wave of the trainer and the coaches, they were invited to be a part of the Trust Your Talent team. So I call it the OG.
Yeah.
Right. So
Nice.
the OG is like that. And now that we are 3.5 years in. Over the last 3 years now, every single year we have an annual conference, and we also do an Academy Awards night because it's Trust Your Talent Academy. And just in the last 3 years alone, we already have more than 36 people declaring financial freedom or financial independence. And we define those two things very, very clearly, because I always say, you know what? I actually did love my job. My parents spent a lot of money, not me. My parents spent a lot of money on my education. I spent a lot of sweat and tears and sleepless nights studying, working hard, pulling all those long hours just to prove that, I'm worthy and I deserve the big bucks. And I really did enjoy what I was doing. However, I was downsized eventually. And thank God, because I think that was a very toxic environment for me. Had I not been downsized, I probably would have stuck it out a bit longer than I should have. And that would not have been good for my mental health. But the point is, though, going back to what we're saying now is we have had 3 years of track record, if you will.
Results.
And the results that we have, and that's what we always say, it has nothing to do with the number of doors. It's not about feeding your ego. It's about feeding your bank account. Put food on the table. Create the quality life that you want to have while you're on this planet right now. And so now with the results, newer generation. So within the TYT, with Trust Your Talent Academy community, we have people that are like, we're kind of the godparents or the grandparents now, the grandfathers, because there's the next generation and then the next generation. And to me, this is why we keep on saying, in Chinese, we also say the 富不过三代. So wealth does not last for more than 3 generations.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that, because we believe, and there are statistics now coming out to measure those things. Like literally, it does not last more than 3 generations anymore. And we always say financial education is what's going to help you get there. Because again, going back to properties, because of my previous experience, I've been able to teach real estate investing around the world, literally in 3 different continents so far. And it doesn't matter what culture, what country that I've been in. I've never come across a culture where somebody said, don't work too hard. Everybody works hard. However, how do you get ahead? How do you create that life that you want? Because, I don't know what everybody subscribed to. I don't know if there's a next life for me. I want to make the best out of it now.
How do you balance between reaching your potential, right? Like try to reach as far as you can, like, and see what your limitation is versus, okay, let's take it easy. Let's forget about the door counts. Let's forget about this, right? And let's just focus on what you truly enjoy. Because these two are 2 different directions.
Very. I agree. I'll go first, and I want to hear what you have to share too.
Okay.
Because, we're married, and yesterday was actually our 16 years anniversary.
Oh,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And so
Awesome.
like I said, we embarked on this journey together 13 years ago now at this point. This journey being getting financially educated, started building real estate portfolios around the globe and creating that lifestyle for ourselves. For me, though, it's funny because sometimes when I go on to podcasts, people will be like, how many doors do you have? And I always say this, and it's a bit of a joke. However, I'm pretty serious about it because having traveled around the world to do this, like I said earlier, I've met people that have literally thousands of doors, and not all of them are in any sort of trust in corporations. So there's not a lot of long-term planning there. They did it for the ego. They look run down. They look tired because most of the properties are not performing, but they just got so used to the pace and the rhythm of collecting properties. Whereas we've met so many people now, and within the Trust Your Talent community, that's what we are growing. That is the mindset. That is the direction that we want people to understand. Do you want to be able to go to a networking event and tell people I have 100 doors and yet I don't sleep because I have tenants calling me left, right, and center? Or do you want to go to a networking meeting and be like, yeah, you know what? I've been investing in real estate for 2 years and I declare financial freedom within 18 months and I have 8 properties under my belt right now.
Second one sounds way better.
A little more efficient.
And that's the thing, because it's all going back to that formula that we do. You start with your purpose, your reason. And again, we still live in the modern world, which means money is the most commonly used currency to trade things. Yes, we can barter and everything still. At the same time, money is the fastest and easiest tool that we all have access to and the ability to grow and gain. The second part of that is after you've got that vision, we help you boil it down to a financial goal. And once you're clear about your financial goal, and that goal, as we all know, goals can change, they can evolve as we grow. If your chosen investing strategy or vehicle, in this case, is real estate, the next step is to choose the real estate strategies that will contribute to the goal, because everybody is For example, the last few years, hot on multifamily. Not everybody should do multifamily, in my opinion. Some people love flips. Some markets don't support that. Some people don't have the right knowledge for that. Worse yet, some people think they can watch HGTV and do flips.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And so people are putting themselves in danger, and that's really crappy. And then so again, we do the whole SMP model and the roadmap with our students or with the people that we train. So that means, let's say if your goal is to create ultimately, let's say $8,000 a month in income. So if it's $8,000 purely in passive income, that means, like I said earlier, we've defined things very well. That's financial freedom. However, some people will go, you know what? Doesn't matter. I mean, I can buy and sell. I can become a wholesaler. I can do some flips here and there alongside building my lease options, my creative financings, as well as my commercial portfolio, my short-term rentals, my multifamilies. Then to us, that's financial independence. Because the way we define it is that you can leverage both earned income and passive income strategies so that you never have to rely on somebody else to give you a paycheck to live and pay bills with. And so that's what we do.
That's awesome because the financial freedom to everybody is also different, right? So you want to anchor that first, right? Let's say if a student comes, I have a big goal or whatever. Okay, what does that actually mean to you? How do we actually reach that level without you working so hard so that you can actually get your time back? Okay, so how long does it take for you to actually readjust a student's mindset in the very beginning?
Well, our approach is a little different because we do a lot of free content out there. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on a lot of different platforms because it takes a long time. It's a long drip. I think our record right now from one of the strategy coaches on the team is 14 months.
Wow.
Constant check-in, constant check-in. And at the same time, this is also the other thing we want to prove to people is that we're here to stay. And in all honesty, especially from the very beginning, we didn't take out any loans. We have portfolios that have passive income that supported the beginning and building of this business. And we will continue to do that just because, again, it's a legacy project. It's a passion project. And this is also one of the reasons why it's not called Tim and Ray's coaching program.
Yeah.
It is called Trust Your Talent because the way we look at it is like, it's like Coca-Cola. It's like Disney. It's like Nike. The founders can be long gone. However, the mission and the legacy will continue because the mission is to create financial independence one person at a time. And it doesn't matter if we're here or not. As long as we know that the program is around, we have the right people in place and that these people, they're products of the system, it'll continue to reproduce itself.
You talk a lot about mindset, and I think a lot of it starts there. Even sometimes the stuff that I see with other people, very often their success is a byproduct of the way they think. Not so much that they think this way because they're successful. It's something else there. But often people need that catalyst. Like even some of the things you said that when certain adjustments came to be, your first job, it was downsizing. It created a pivot point for you. When the previous coaching went away, then it created another pivot point for you. And it's like there's these catalyst events that basically promote change. And I'm wondering if that is sometimes almost an essential part. You know, the whole thing, without adversity, there isn't any growth, and people need some kind of adversity. So do you think that sometimes the whole idea of putting people into situations helps them find a goal, or do you want to go figure out your goal first and, the other way around kind of thing? How would you approach that? Because some people have goals and they just don't.
At least from my mentees, when I've mentored people and they've come across that, one of the things I help them as a mentor and a lot of our mentors help their mentees with is developing their mindset. Again, back to that, because everything can happen on the outside. If they don't know and don't believe in themselves at their core that whatever the outside throws at them, they can overcome it, they can work through it, they can accept support from their community to overcome it, they fall down like a house of cards. And that's why there's so many people that I've seen out there that go on from success to success. However, that's just riding the market. If I put $300,000 or in your market, $800,000 somewhere in a property sat on my hands and waited for appreciation, would you define that as success?
No.
Whereas for us, what we're doing with a lot of our mentees is preparing them for when it turns. So they have their wits about them. So they have multiple tools at their disposal. Like we were going through your tool area downstairs. I was looking at that going, oh wow, like I'd want that snow blower thing.
No, you don't. Outsource that.
as a toy.
Yeah.
However, looking at it, I think there's people out there who are successful pushing a broom. And if the wind is behind them, blowing the snow while they're pushing the broom, they're looking down knowing the only strategy they know, thinking, wow, it's working, I'm so good. However, what happens when the wind stops blowing? What happens when the wind blows the other way? And that's why it's nice, like your tool area, to have so many tools at our disposal as real estate investors to be able to pivot.
So I'll give you a quick example there to kind of wrap up that thought too, because like I said, S&P, for example, strategy, market, then property. So it's funny because a lot of people challenge us on this. Well, I thought I'm learning how to invest in real estate. Why is the property the last thing we look at? And I know this is very contradicting to a lot of things a lot of people say. However, that's exactly what we are. And that's why we think that people really need to understand is that ultimately speaking, your goal is not to collect properties. And when I ask that question again, people are like, oh yeah, what was your goal? What was your main reason for wanting to make more money in the first place, wanting to invest in the first place? Time and lots and lots of other reasons, right? So this is why we say, prior to COVID lockdowns, we always say the reason why with S&P is because whatever your goal is, and it could be a long-term goal, short-term goal, we can modify that as we go. I always call it a 2x2 before COVID lockdowns. So 2 strategies in 2 different markets. And that's based on personal experience because we live in Edmonton now. We used to live in Vancouver, moved to Edmonton. We've been there for about 13 years. So really our real estate investing career started in Alberta. And we all know what happened in 2014 with the oil and gas industry. Mm-hmm. And so what that really translated into is in 2016, we basically, one day, we got a call. We were in Rome, Italy, and we got a call from one of the partners back then that they folded. They went into receivership without even telling us that that was even an option. And so really the short end of that is we lost $1 million overnight cash. And that's not including having to debt service our OPM because we started when we were a lot younger now. And so majority of our portfolio is still built on OPM. And even to this day, we're very proud of the fact that the majority of our portfolio is built on OPM because we always have this mindset that we're sharing the wealth and we want to help other people secure their day-to-day cash flow, their retirement plans, their plans to support their kids through traditional education or just a lifestyle change or boost. We said 2x2 because of that happening. Most people, they're like, well, it's real estate. Can I just do it in my own backyard? No, we know that doesn't fly anymore, especially if you live in the GTA or if you live in Vancouver, usually for Canadians. After COVID lockdowns, we say it's 3x3. You need to have at least 3 strategies, 3 exit strategies, because anybody with money and qualification can acquire something. However, I always say your exit strategies determine how you make money and how much money you make. So a flip is an exit, right? A wholesale assignment is an exit. A lease option is an exit. A multi is some sort of, it's a property type in my opinion. So at the same time, it's also a strategy on its own, just because it's a completely different asset class altogether within the asset class. 3x3, 3 strategies in 3 different markets so that you're not going to be, it's basically ultimately creating the most amount of protection for yourselves. And this is also why over the last 13 years now, we not only have built for ourselves coast to coast across Canada, we're also in the US. We've been investing in various states as well. And we are also investing in the United Kingdom, just so that we're not restricted, even though, in all these 3 countries right now, all interest rates are going up across the board. However, we can now look at our Canadian portfolio, and we're very open about this. In the last year alone, our monthly cash flow shrank by over $12,000 a month because of interest rate. And so your cash flow is getting eroded. However, if you didn't have scale or access to OPM, and to have access to OPM, money will follow good deals. Are you willing to make yourself a good deal for people to invest in? That's always the first question. And then, do you have enough exit strategies to get yourself out of trouble when you need to? And so we always share that because, we didn't grow up with silver spoons. Everything we have today, we worked for it.
Right. Tim and Ray, I'm going to be asking you guys a question that we're being asked so many times by our audience. So obviously we're also looking to the US investing, and I'm very glad that you guys mentioned that you guys pivoting to a different market. Now, in current or today's climate in Canadian market, what is the best way to generate some sort of passive income in today's market? Because here's the thing. Let's say if I'm a student coming to you guys and I say my financial freedom is $5,000 per month, right? And I want to achieve that as obviously as quickly as possible, but then I also want my time back. Let's say 2-3 years down the road. What would be the strategies that you guys can actually advise me to do? Because right now, nothing cash flows. And this is the biggest issue, right? Nothing cash flows. And maybe your counter would be, well, there's also lease option that you can actually try to do. And you can exit the project three years from now. Right. But I just want to get your thoughts on this.
I think regardless of what's happening in the market, and let's say you're brand new, the thought always is, or something that we've practiced is, we buy and sell to build capital first, and then we buy and hold to build wealth. Because really, even if I had $5 million and I just buy and held, that's it, I'm stuck. Whereas if I have multiple strategies and start creating value first, then have a bigger pot to play with and can grow faster that way and end up with even more than what I started with. Yeah.
I love this. We always believe in flip 3, hold 1. Right, build up your capital first, and then hold
Monopoly.
But
Yeah.
but that's more like real estate business rather than just like real estate investing. Because then it's when you buy and sell, it's actually not like a fully passive thing. It's a little active, right? There's more work involved. It's generally consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
But then you recommend like some kind of real estate business activity first, and then when you have real money to talk about, then start investing.
Yeah.
Because the other way to look at it too is people are looking at what we're experiencing right now globally across markets with higher interest rates. And this is going to be controversial because for a lot of us real estate investors, we're only looking at our costs. However, as educated real estate investors, we're also looking at the people who invested thinking that interest rates were going to be low forever, appreciation is going to last forever, and now they need to get out because the kitchen's hot. Again, like what Tim said, we lost $12,000 in cash flow. We can stand that.
It'll come back.
It'll come. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And there's people out there who don't have that scale, who haven't thought about it, who just listened to what was on HGTV and bought a property and don't even know how to do their numbers.
Yeah.
Those are the people now we're helping out. We're helping them get out of a bad situation, and we're helping ourselves by acquiring a property what market value is.
Who was it who was talking about the cash is trash thing? Somebody was coining that.
Grant Cardone.
Was it Grant Cardone?
Oh,
He
yeah.
was saying cash is trash, right? And it was
No.
interesting because, we went through a period where people would throw a rock and make money in real estate, right? And
Yeah.
it was just so easy,
Yep.
right? And then, they were preaching that, and a lot of people were buying into the cash is trash, but not realizing that the cash flow is actually a good insulator
Mm-hmm.
for right now. The only reason we can withstand
1,000%.
it is because you had that cash flow insulation where if you probably reflect on the portfolio, like I'm going to just guess that the portfolio has to be pretty decent in order to be, and also padded in order to be able to have that kind of cash flow, right? Because we know, and that means that you didn't max out to the nines in order to, just have that liquid capital, because then you would otherwise have to be servicing it. So cash flow, I think, is a great insulator, and people are definitely paying for not having had that insulation, right? Because, everybody went and relied only on future promise, the equity growth, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but now people are in a difficult situation. So how do people pivot like that? Can they pivot?
1,000%, because it's funny that you said that, because it's all about building like a business, and like every single business, nobody would knowingly walk into wanting to buy an existing business knowing that it's in the red every single month. Most people would run away screaming unless you're like, okay, I am an industry expert for this business and I know how to turn it around in the next little bit. However, that statement applies to a trained and professional real estate investor, seeing the opportunities that most people don't see so that they can turn it around. The idea though is that, everybody that comes through, we do a roadmap with them. And that's why it's one-on-one mentorship. That is a huge component in everything that we do, because a mentor is there from the start of your journey. It's not the end, because once you start that relationship with your mentor, you continue to build that relationship. And a mentor, really, in our opinion, just because we've been doing that for a long time now, is we just started earlier than you did. I was a marketing major. This guy,
I'm a double major in Asian studies and history.
Nice.
so nobody taught us financial education, real estate investing, and we learned everything ourselves. And that's why at TYT, when you come to an info event or one of the first introductory, you will learn. We always say, trust yourself and you believe that the system can work for you. And we believe that the system works. And especially now we've proven that it does work. We do put it up there. Within the next 2 to 5 years, we will help you create financial independence. And the other thing is, we can, talk more about really the details. I don't mind. We'll be here for hours and days. However, the idea, I always say this to people because, hold your job. That's fine. And people will always ask, ASAP. No, ASAP is not an answer in any sort of goal setting or business planning session. There's no such thing as ASAP. So we will really dig deep in terms of, what's your day-to-day habits like? What are your current obligations with work, with family, with spouses, with parents, with family, with kids, and maybe even personal hobby and me time, that sort of stuff. And then we start to, like you said earlier question, how do you actually adjust people's mindset? It takes time. And that's where the whole system comes in, and the mentor and the trainer, because we put everybody, I mean, most people through a 2-year, what we call full immersion experience. To me, I mean, you and I are both immigrants. When we first came here, I only knew how to say things like, hello, my name is Tim. Good morning. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. That was like very grade 6 English course in Taiwan. And so I believe in full immersion simply because of the fact that learning the language of investing is like learning a brand new language. Without full immersion, people that just go to meetup events once a month or two events, that's more of a hobby. And I've learned that if you treat it as a hobby, you'll get hobby results. If you treat it like a business, you'll get business results. And so I always like to kind of, in a way, joke, but in all seriousness, TYT is like the real life business school because it is financial education. We just leverage real estate as our main vehicle because investing by definition is learning how money works and how money works for you. And so to wrap it all up, to really just to go back to what we were saying is 2 to 5 years. Because the stats still sitting at the average millionaire has 7 streams or more income. Most people have 1. So what that means is if you want to be a successful, true millionaire that can create some buffers and shelters and start create changes in your life, how about let's just add 6 more streams of income? And that could be as simple as 6 properties. However, we don't count properties, as you know. We're going to look at your day-to-day expenses and figure out, okay, by the end of 2023, because that's the year we're in, what would you be happy with in terms of what your passive income is like, or just overall income from creating and building a real estate portfolio? Because once again, financial independence applies to everybody. You can keep your job if you want to. At the same time, it's 2 to 5 years. Some people have stronger why, bigger motivations. Maybe they just got laid off. Maybe a life event really hit them like it did me with a heart attack. I just realized that I need to run a little faster once I was able to physically. The real reason behind all of this is it comes down to the individual's desire to pivot. And we believe that everybody can pivot because we can build business plans around different circumstances. So 2 to 5 years, financial independence, 7 streams of income or more. That's really the blueprint and where we start with everybody so that they understand that it can actually be fairly simple.
For a lot of our listeners, they're actually in a more like a younger age, anywhere between maybe like 18 all the way to like 30, right? So these group of audience, they're in like hustling mindset. I love to talk to many of them because they say, hey, listen, I got the hustle, I got the intention, like my mind's there, I just need a tool to actually get there. And sometimes when we ask the same questions, what's your actual financial goal, right? And how long does it actually take for you to do that? So oftentimes we actually get them to try to start understanding how flipping property works because that's the quickest way to actually build your capital. And then once you build that out, then you can decide whether or not you want to invest in long-term hold, commercial properties, or even just private lending. So let's say if for our listeners, people who want to get into house flipping, is there any like a blueprint for them to kind of like follow, or what's your advice on that?
My advice is flipping is flipping. It's a good exit strategy, and that's quick cash. Again, we buy and sell so that we can build capital so that we can leverage that capital and buy and hold to create long-term wealth and cash flow along the way. One of the biggest things that we are also fighting against, especially the last few years, is BRRRR is not a strategy.
It's not.
BRRRR is a process. If you're smart enough and you're a true business person, you understand BRRRR is a strategy. I mean, aside from real estate, for example, one of our passion projects is restaurants. We love food, Asians.
Yeah.
So we have food, we have restaurants as well in our portfolio. And with every single restaurant, we BRRRR it. With every business, we BRRRR it because the idea is you got to add value, and then you can you take out the money and then you can reinvest back into the business itself or something else or scale up, whatever the case may be. However, that's the thing. I've seen so many people, actually quite a few students when they first came to Trust Your Talent, ones that I call they BRRRR themselves into depression.
Oh, we've seen many people like that in the past 2 years.
Because it sounds so great. However, no, not everybody needs to BRRRR. And by the way, I mean, even if you're going to BRRRR something, do you really have to do it right after you reno and tenant? No, that could be a 6 months process or 5 years down the road, you BRRRR it.
By the way, would you consider refi an exit strategy or it's not?
No, I would not consider refi an exit
Okay,
strategy.
because a lot of people consider that as an exit strategy because now their money's back.
Yeah.
But the truth is now you're paying the interest.
Exactly.
So-
And again, that's why they burn themselves into depression, because all of a sudden, oh my God, I was cash flowing $300 a month and now I am cash flowing $5. And oh, by the way, interest rate went up and I have no cash flow and now I'm paying my tenants to live there.
Yeah, no, a lot of people get these problems and not realizing how self-induced a lot of it is. And some people just need to see that they have a certain amount of money in their bank account. They don't even care where they get it, but not realizing how quickly it drains. Right? People don't often do the calculations to really see as how they're going to actually service everything over a period of time. And then just the lender ends up making a big chunk of money.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And so going back to, again, your question is, is there a blueprint for somebody to basically do a complete flip? Absolutely. Because for us, I mean, this sounds like a giant commercial, but it's not meant to be. And again, with what we do, and this comes from a lot of personal beliefs in terms of what's really missing when it comes to leveraging real estate investing as a very, very amazing and fun vehicle to create money and income streams and wealth. We actually have what we call distressed properties or real estate investing fundamentals included in every single mentorship program that we offer. And because we know that there's so many things that are literally, they are the basics, and flipping is one of the basics. We actually don't even have a course specifically just on flipping because it all falls under distressed properties and fundamentals, because that's where you find the most value.
Deal sourcing, right? Finding the most profitable deals.
Exactly. And so again, within that though, so if we want to talk about a specific blueprint, I mean, easy 5 steps right there is the fact that obviously you got to learn how to do your own SMP. I mean, if your S is to flip, obviously that means you got to sell. So that means the next thing is to learn how to do proper market due diligence. When you're doing market due diligence, then you need to, the different factors you got to look at to make sure that, hey, there's going to be an end buyer at the end of the day. Because so many people, they just do it. They buy something, they reno it, and they get emotionally carried away without the numbers, without the due diligence, without actually identifying the end buyer in mind. And so even just the question that you ask, most of your listeners are 18 to 30. That's knowing who you're catering to. And so to us, that's one of the most important things that we focus on. And the third one, because it is a flip, so the component of finding the best power team members is very, very important. Making sure that your realtors, your mortgage brokers, if you need to borrow money, and most importantly, your general contractor, they are all on the same page and they can be there to work with you or without you, and they can carry the project forward. Because again, we're training people how to be investors. We always joke that if you look at two of us, you give us a hammer, it's more of a weapon than a tool. We'll hurt somebody or ourselves.
Or ourselves,
Yeah. So the heaviest thing that we lift during any sort of burr or any sort of flip projects that we've done is our cell phone.
Yeah.
Not a tool. Like literally, it's dangerous. And so being able to communicate your plans with your power team members, and in fact, actually, Ray just did a little seminar a couple nights ago here too, is how to build a real estate investing power team successfully to help you grow in every single market that you want and need to go into in order to continue to scale up your portfolio. And we talk about the fact that, the reason why we've been able to go into so many different territories, different provinces, states, countries, and counties across the world is because we've learned how to build power team members properly. And a big chunk of most of our mentorships focus on that, because you got to be very clear about your vision of every single project and then how to communicate that, how to run numbers, and how to make sure that everybody's talking to each other without you being the messenger, because things always get lost. And so that's the third one, having the power team ready. And then number 4, to me, it's more of a self-discipline kind of component at this point is, where do you position yourself in this entire process so far? Are you the project manager? Are you treating yourself as a sub-trade to your general contractor just to save some money? Again, that goes back to mindset. Or do you keep your eye on the ball and say, you know what, maybe I can do 2 or 3 flips concurrently? So a lot of that is business planning. So that's the step. And you're constantly reevaluating your numbers, especially your first, I would say up to 5 deals even. You're constantly reevaluating your numbers, because we all know sometimes, oh yeah, forgot to buy this, forgot to get that, forgot to calculate that in. So it's $5 receipt from Home Depot, $10 from Rona. Oh no more Ronas, do we? Or Lowe's. Still around. Yeah, Lowe's now. And I just walked into Lowe's the other day to cut a key for $5. I mean, it's nothing if you think about it. However, you guys manage 800 properties. If 50% of that happens in a year, that's $4,000 right there that maybe wasn't really accounted for in the first place.
Yeah, no, we have a key cutter.
There we go.
Yeah,
You're smart.
investment.
So
Yeah.
most people we talk to, they don't even have that in house,
Yeah.
and they manage, big portfolios too. And so that's the part where, again, it's putting your investor's hat on with support, especially if you're brand new. So being able to, stay humble and be coached and be mentored properly. There's no ego there. And that's also when people come to us, we make that very clear. We're here to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear anymore.
I had a flash of a flash of insight one day where we were talking about why we do what we do. So the other reason why we have TYT, and it's because Tim and I will be hanging out in the middle of the day, walk into a bubble tea shop going, it's just me and you. So again, one of the missions with TYT is to enable unofficially. It's not on the header or any
This isn't the mission
slide.
statement. Yeah.
It's to enable more people to go to have bubble tea in the middle of the day on a Wednesday. Because who else are you going to hang out with that's cool, that speaks your language, that knows what you're going through, and appreciates
The freedom.
and bubble tea?
It's an unofficial mission. We want to have bubble tea with more people on a Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. randomly, just so that we can shoot the shits or talk about real estate, talk about investing, talk about business, talk about things that the majority of people don't talk about.
Yeah. And you don't want to be the guy who calls up your friend on the random Wednesday afternoon and be all like, hey, so what are you up to? And be like, I'm
At work.
working.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So sidebar here, because, the official communication out there for me is that on July 25th, 2012 was my declaration of financial freedom. Why? Because that was the day I got laid off from Yellow Pages. However, because we started doing our training in 2010. And so when I went home that day, I just looked at my spreadsheet. Oh, I actually don't need to go and get a job anymore. And so that's why I always say July 25th, 2012 was my financial freedom day. And I always remember that now. And the funny thing is, because ever since that day, he decided that he wanted to continue to work to just get other experiences. Because again, for us at that point, it was like, well, we have financial freedom. That just means that we can tell our bosses to pound sand when we want to. We don't rely on anybody anymore. He chose to continue to work at different jobs. And for me, it was very much the fact that I was still recovering from my third heart attack. I was actually depressed for a while because of that. So I was still in recovery mode. And so when I got laid off, it was literally 2 weeks after I came out of long-term disability leave. And then I just decided, no, I'm not gonna go and find a job anytime soon. I'm just gonna focus on me, build my health back up, and we'll see what happens.
By the way, that's how I define the true freedom and true, I guess, retirement, right? It's not so that you have zero things to do, nothing to do. It's so that you can design your day however you want. At that moment, that's your priority is to building back your health.
Exactly.